And I just want to make sure, is it safe? Can we still be talking about the Rise of Skywalker? Are we going to get emails? Why are you still talking about Rise of Skywalker? Jeez. Any chance Jason gets to talk about Rise of Skywalker? I mean, it's only been out for what, like 4 weeks? Is this week 4, 5? I don't know. No, all kidding aside, we've got lots to talk about here in the brand new year of 2020, and a very special episode of Rebel Force Radio. This week we're doing the show live so we can take your phone calls. So if you'd like to get in the queue, go ahead and line up now. The phone number to call and be a part of the show is 708-866-1737. That's 708-866-1RFR. And we've already got some calls lined up. So if you'd like to get your place, we will pop you on. But a lot of things to talk about before we get into all of that. Of course, we'll be getting you caught up on the latest Star Wars news, including a very interesting and alleged leaked copy of the Colin Trevorrow, as I'm told by YouTubers that it's Trevorrow, not Trevorrow.
Right.
Colin Trevorrow, the former screenwriter and director of Episode IX, his version of the film, this script has leaked. And Jimmy Mac's going to be breaking it all down for you, and we'll put that on the table for your reaction to call as well. But you know what? We're not gonna wait that long. We're in good faith. We're gonna reward our pal from Salt Lake City, and we're gonna put him on the air in just a moment to sort of kick things off. But before I do, of course, introductions are in order. If you're new to the program, and we know that given the fact that this is a Star Wars movie year, or Star Wars movie season, since it's technically a new calendar year. We got new folks coming into the Rebel Force Radio family left and right. Thank you so much. Big numbers for the month of December. We appreciate all of that. So introductions in order. My name is Jason, and with me, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mac.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans.
You're really reclining there. I noticed, like...
Oh, I got the...
sit up, man. We got guests.
Oh, we're back on the air?
We're not on vacation anymore.
Oh, yeah, we took last week off. I thought we were still kind of chillaxing.
Yeah.
But here we are. Here we are, live and in your face. Rebel Force Radio for 2020. And yeah, it still is Star Wars season because, of course, The Rise of Skywalker still in theaters. People are still going back to see it over and over again to either love it more or hate on it more or whatever. You've heard what we think about the film. And my thoughts really haven't changed at all on it. If anything, they've become more reinforced. I've been having a great time with this movie. But you've heard what we think of it, and now we want to hear from you guys. Love it or hate it. I want to hear from all sides. I don't have a hang-up with people discussing some of the problems they have with this film. And nor am I going to sit here and try to convince you to like this movie. I'm not going to do that. And I hope people aren't going to call in and try to convince us to hate on the film as well. We do know it goes both ways. But I think this movie promotes a lot of open-minded discussion because there's so little that actually gets defined. You can call it a plot hole. I call it an ample opportunity to fill in the blanks. And I've been having a good time doing it, too, with talking to my friends about their Palpatine theories. How did Palpatine return? I have one that's very specific. My theory on Palpatine is this.
You're going to lay it on us right now.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
I'm trying to simplify it and streamline it as much as possible for future conversation. So I'm going to use this opportunity here to woodshed my theory in front
the theater business. We call it workshopping.
Workshop, woodshed,
okay.
What have you? And you know, none of this can be proven right or wrong either. I think the novelization is going to answer some questions. But here's what I think, okay?
Funny you mentioned that, but yeah, I'll put a pin in that one.
Right. The novel, it got pushed back a couple weeks in March.
Yeah. Thank you,
for whatever reason. That happens quite often. Why'd you call me 9 Numb?
No. The novel got pushed back, and I said, "Yeah, thank you to 9 Numb." I don't know if you saw the story and the confirmation of
I get what you're saying. Okay, because there's a lot of talk about whether he did or didn't survive the Battle of Exegol. Yeah. But back to my Palpatine theory. Here's what I think happened. I believe that it is his body that we see in the film. I believe that's the body Vader threw down the shaft. I think his body was retrieved from the ruins on the Endor moon, Kef Bir. I think that's where they retrieved his body. And lifeless, of course. But they were able to retrieve his body and resuscitate it with their Sith magic and technology, and resuscitate the body so that the spirit of Palpatine could come back and inhabit it. I think that Oshi is the one who retrieved Palpatine's body from the Death Star wreckage because he was a Sith acolyte.
Yes.
He had the Sith acolyte emblem on his speeder, and he was also an agent of Palpatine's. Who
Sith
eventually
Eternal, I think, is also what they're called.
Yes, and that's the symbol on our headphones here too, from Bose. Thank you, Bose. But I think it was Oshi because he had that dagger, and he needed the dagger which he used as a sort of map, a location finder for the Wayfinder. So it was like a Wayfinder for the Wayfinder, essentially. He was able to retrieve Palpatine's body. And he knew that there was a Wayfinder on board the Death Star, but he couldn't access it. He knew it was in that room that Rey was eventually able to gain access to. But he wasn't strong enough in the Force or whatever to get entrance into that room. So he knew it was there and knew the location, and he forged that dagger and inscribed the information about the location of the Wayfinder in Sith on the dagger. Because he knew that couldn't be translated. And obviously, being a Sith acolyte, he understood the language of the Sith. So if he didn't survive, and another Sith could find the dagger and then find the Wayfinder or try to gain access to it, because Oshi couldn't do it for whatever reason. Now, Oshi became a very trusted member of Palpatine's inner circle after he was resurrected, and was given the task to bring Rey to him on Exegol. But he failed because Rey's parents, Palpatine's grandson, I think it's the grandson. Is that ever made clear which parent is actually the offspring of Palpatine?
It's implied that it's the son.
The son.
Not the daughter, that he had a son. And it's almost like it between the dialogue and the way the sequence is shot and framed. I left the movie and left that scene thinking that it was the son.
Yeah, me too.
But I can't quote the dialogue, to say exactly why. Right. But I remember that being my impression. But it doesn't matter because they were losers.
I think he's a failure.
Weak losers.
So that's how I believe the Sith dagger came into reality. That's how I believe Oshi ties into all of this, because he's actually the one who was able to retrieve Palpatine's body and bring it to Exegol.
Okay, but I have a question though. I got a question. Okay. Palpatine's body retrieved from the Death Star before it blew up, or retrieved from the wreckage there?
The wreckage.
From the wreckage. Okay. Yes. All right. So why did he need to find the Wayfinder after he already found Palpatine?
Well, it wasn't a question that he needed to find it. Just he needed to know where the location was.
Okay. Was he leaving a clue so it could be found?
No, I think he wanted to retrieve it to keep the location of Exegol secret, so only the Sith knew its location and how to get there.
So it was about security.
Yes. Okay. Yes. why the Wayfinders exist in the first place, that's a mystery. But Vader had one on Mustafar, and Palpatine had one on the Death Star too.
Mm-hmm. And it could be that this was part of a contingency plan.
Yeah,
that might have been known by Vader.
Of course.
And that kind of,
a lot of people, speaking of contingency plans, a lot of people are pointing to the Battlefront video game that featured the droids who represented Palpatine, I guess.
That had
Sentinels.
the hollow faces, the Sentinels, right.
Sentinels. And so a lot of people are pointing at that and saying, hey, look, the plan for Palpatine, his big return was already being hinted at all the way back then in this video game. And I don't think so. I from all the evidence that we've been able to retrieve about the making of the sequel trilogy, the idea to include Palpatine didn't come into fruition until Episode 9 was already in pre-production. I think it was underway at the very definitely well into pre-production, because it wasn't part of the Colin Trevorrow script or treatment that was recently retrieved and reported online. We have all that information coming up this week on the show, so we're going to burn through a bunch of news stories and what have you quickly, and then we'll open up the phone lines.
Well, I think we wanted to take one call.
We did, because we just don't want people holding on forever. So you said someone from the great Salt Lake City is on.
Yeah.
Salt Lake City.
Yeah, our pal Corey is on. Let's take a call from Corey. Hey, Corey, you're on with Rebel Force Radio.
Hello.
Hey.
This is Gar.
Oh, it's Gar. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what? This always happens. I'm going to just ignore. I'm going to just ignore when it says caller name. They don't know what they're talking about.
Are you from Salt Lake City?
Gar Binks on the line.
I'm calling from Provo, Utah.
Oh, that's really close.
So close.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the computer thinks you're in Salt Lake. What do you want?
What
do you want from a droid?
The fob brought us to you. We have the Mandalorian fob.
The fob I think the fob comes from the same place as the tracker as well. You got the fob, the tracker. It's all,
Yeah. And everything's pointing at Provo, Utah right now.
Yeah. As Maz Kanata would say, that's a story for another time.
What can we do for you, Gar?
Hey, well, I was just listening to you here, and I've seen the movie 8 times now, and I'm going to see it a 9th time with my 4-year-old son on Friday.
Good for you.
That might be a little intense.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Episode 9. You got to see it 9 times. Right?
Is that how it works?
But,
okay.
Yeah.
Any concerns with taking your 9-year-old, because it gets pretty intense in places? Or I mean, your 4-year-old. Yeah. You said 4, right?
No, I took my 8-year-old daughter a week or two ago, and I didn't have my kids. I guess they don't get nightmares from stuff like this. Yeah, so I don't have a problem with that. I mean, other parents they can do things differently, I guess. But,
it's all about what. There's no hard and fast rules about this stuff. You got to know your kids. You got to know what they can handle. Some kids, are desensitized.
Right.
If you terrorize them enough, like Gar does, then they're not going to be scared of anything.
Yeah, you got a little Eddie Munster running around your house. You got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, exactly. So it is she is the daughter of the son of Palpatine.
Okay. How do we know that? Why do we know that?
Kylo says that.
Kylo says it.
He does. Okay.
In the hangar.
Which when he says that they're a dyad, before she jumps off there.
Oh wait, no. He says.
And then.
Wait. He says, "I am the grandson of Darth Vader. You are the granddaughter of Palpatine." I don't think he's specific about who the parent is that actually is the son or daughter of Palpatine. He's not specific.
Oh,
but I think in another scene, there is specificity.
Yeah, there could be. All right, so I was thinking about that scene in the hangar. Okay, But maybe when
yeah, and then I was thinking too. I think that Palpatine did die. That he didn't, because there's some argument that maybe he never died and he survived. But I think he did die because, I mean, at the beginning of the movie it says the dead speak. First of all, so he did, and then he says to Kylo, I've died before.
Yeah.
And
but James Bond has said that too.
Oh, that's right. Thunder or Skyfall.
But and then he comes back. Basically, Dominic Monaghan's line is cloning, dark science.
Yeah.
So I think that explains it right there. The combination of cloning and dark science.
Dark science.
You're right.
Yeah, I looked at it. I looked at it like he was throwing out two different possibilities. Oh, I mean, cloning, dark science. The possibilities are endless for how he could come back.
But also, I think the nail in the coffin, though, is when Anakin says, bring balance to the Force, as I did. So Anakin did bring balance to the Force. He did destroy him. And then it got back out of balance by him being able to come back. And then Rey had to finish the job.
Mm-hmm. Right. And even Luke says in Episode 8 that the Force was in balance for a time following their victory at Endor.
Yeah.
So that's truth. But
see, I don't have a problem with this. Look, I know some people do. I know some people are sensitive to this idea that somehow Rey's final confrontation with Palpatine sort of negates Vader's sacrifice. I don't see it that way. I feel that Luke's mandate was to confront Vader. That's what he said. You must confront Darth Vader again. Mm-hmm. Luke went a third way. He didn't kill him. He redeemed him, through unconditional love of a son to a father. The father sacrificed his own life so that his son could live. In the crosshairs of all that was Palpatine, and Palpatine went down the chute. But I never really thought that his mission was fulfilled because he killed Palpatine. Palpatine was an important figure, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he wasn't the main focus, the main target.
Right. The whole idea of Luke going into the Death Star was to redeem his father, and he did just that. The whole idea of Vader killing Palpatine isn't to claim some crown that says chosen one encrusted in jewels on it. It's he's doing it because he wants to save his son. And in the same time, he's also bringing the light back into the forefront and saving the Jedi. And so that's exactly what he does. So that's the family story of the Skywalkers. Now you move forward in time. The Palpatine threat still does exist. So I don't think that really negates anything that Anakin did, because he saved Luke and he came out of the darkness and was able to become one with the Force on the light side. Yeah. And so I think that it's a true victory for the characters. But, the grand scheme of things, it gets further complicated when the prequels come out. We start hearing this thing about a chosen one. And so some religious documents have a prophecy that may or may not have been interpreted correctly. And we're supposed to really place all of our marbles in that basket as fans. I don't see it that way. I look at it more on the importance of the character story. And for the big picture, which is Palpatine, who had everything in place before the Skywalkers were even a blip on the radar, let's face it, he was already rolling the bones before the Skywalkers came along. So with the Skywalkers gone, save Ben Solo and Leia, with them down at the end, you still have a Palpatine there. So I just think there's something really awesome about the fact that he was taken out by another Palpatine, his own granddaughter, who then at the end denounces his name and takes the name Skywalker. Yep. I think that's there's something really fabulous about that.
Yep.
And and so in essence, all of the wheels that Anakin put in motion by saving his son and the people around him made it possible essentially for Leia to continue, for Luke to continue, and for Ben to continue, Ben Solo. And all of those three were factors all the way down in the end. And if Anakin allowed the Emperor to kill Luke, none of that would have happened. So his sacrifice does have ramifications that go on decades beyond his becoming one with the Force.
By the way, this just in from Justin on the chat. Justin is quoting the film. He says, 100%. He said, Ben says, my mother, the daughter of Vader, your father, the son of Palpatine. According to Justin says. That's what he's saying. Also, in other chat news, Jimmy Mac's mom making a rare appearance in the chat.
Hi, Mom.
I threw it up on the screen for everyone to see.
Oh, boy.
She called me her son in the Force, which I got to tell you, that's quite an honor. Yeah.
World.
Worlds colliding.
I was thinking that the 6 movies, the original 6 movies are about the chosen one fulfilling the prophecy of destroying the original Phantom Menace, the Emperor, and then this is maybe a perfect. This sequel trilogy is a perfect addendum to that, as far as the Phantom Menace being able to come back, and then Rey having to sort of finish the job again. And so I feel it's the perfect way to have the 9 parts, really. And I don't want. I thought, well, maybe they'll do more. They'll do 15 episodes, but at this point, I kind of think that this is the perfect ending. And Ming never dies, so to speak, but the Emperor's not going to come back. And again,
I don't think after this. No, I don't. I think that they're, the more I've been thinking about The Mandalorian and some of the stories that they're getting ready to tell us about potentially the species, Yoda's planet being a planet of sorcerers, and at one time having a great war with the Mandalorians. That's the pastures that they're taking us to. That's the new mythology that Werner Herzog is talking about, that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are creating for us. I think we're going to be leaving most of this behind. I think it's naive to think that there won't be characters, situations that will echo and harken back to this, but the core story, I think, is going to be told. I do think there's room to fill in some of the gaps. Rumors are that some of Palpatine's plot, some of his story that's been not told as so far, might be revealed in The Mandalorian. It's possible. Yeah. We don't know what he could have. For all we know, the quest to get the child could be at the behest of Palpatine himself. We don't know. Or the Sith acolytes, the Sith Eternal.
Right. It would be great to see it all come together that way.
Yeah.
But you know what really sets The Mandalorian apart is that Ming does die. Ming Na Wen, season 1, episode 5. Toast. Fennec Shan.
Somebody call Paul Bateman. Ming died.
Ming does die.
Well, the future of Star Wars is on Disney Plus, don't you think? Because
for sure.
I mean, the movies have too much pressure. It's like, we've only got so many movies, and we've got this character and they have to do them right and all this stuff. Whereas at Disney Plus, you never expected anything out of the Mandalorian, and then you get it and it's like awesome.
No pressure.
Right.
No, the future of Star Wars definitely is on the silver screen. It's going to be fun to watch them develop all these cool stories for Disney Plus and great shows, but Star Wars belongs on the big screen, my friend. And it always will. Now, you talk about pressure. We're at the end of all of this right now. 42 years of storytelling. And they sealed it. It's over. And I feel such relief about that at this point. I remember years ago I saw somebody had tweeted something that said, "You'll never live long enough to see the last Star Wars film." And I truly believe that. They're going to keep pumping out these films beyond both of our lifetimes. And
I like to think that when we go, then they're going to go, "Oh, what's the point now?"
Oh yeah, right.
What's the point?
The Rebel Force Radio guys are gone. That's it. We're going to fold up shop. No, unlikely. But they'll keep making those films forever and ever. And I got nervous thinking I'd never really see the legit end of the Skywalker saga. But here it is at episode 9. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. And we're moving on. I don't think that was the plan. I don't think that was the plan even 2 years ago to end it all with episode 9. I think the pressure is very real that you speak of, Gar, and I think that it's something that limits the storytellers. I think the legacy of Star Wars is a tough one to live up to. It was lightning in a bottle in many ways back in the day, and even Mark Hamill himself had experienced doubt going into the sequel trilogy about undoing a perfect ending. And I'm sure if you talk to Mark now, he'd really have a lot to say about that. But of course, sure. Mark Hamill has been sidelined. We haven't seen hide nor hair of him in any of the promotional buildup for episode 9. And I'm sure that's all been by design. Mark was told to stay home, and Mark said gladly, because he doesn't like the way the character of Luke Skywalker was treated in the sequel trilogy. Now, of course, that's open to debate, but that's what Mark Hamill believes. And I don't think I'm putting words in his mouth. I'm sure if Mark was here, and unleashed, he'd be able to say exactly what I'm summarizing here. And it's sad, but true. But I really think now, with the future having nothing but blue sky opportunity in front of us, I think that it's time now for Disney to put their money where their, put their money where their mouth is. Wait, that's not the same. Put their it is. Put their money where their mouth is and create a Star Wars on their own that will stand on their own and work into the future and not be hamstrung by the echoes of the past and the expectations and hero worship that we have for all of those situations and characters and stories. I want to see Disney make a Star Wars. And I want to see him make a good Star Wars, too. And I kind of like the idea of going into it completely with a blank slate. I find something very refreshing about that after all the stressful moments that have occurred along the way of not only the sequel trilogy, but the prequel trilogy as well. Prequel trilogy as well.
Gar, I really hate to get in between you and Jimmy right now. You're having a great conversation, but we do have lots to cover and more calls. Thanks for hanging on with us. Appreciate it. And good luck with taking your 4-year-old. And shoot us an email. Let us know, how much the therapy bills are going to run you once the 4-year-old sees Phantom Palpatine in his milky eyes. No, seriously. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Have a great one.
Fingers. The fingers when they grow back.
I know. It's like bone. It's so gross. That
would have freaked out my kids so much.
I told you, my son, he really struggled for a couple nights after that movie.
Ooh.
Yeah, Parker was he was freaked out. I said, "Don't worry." He said, "He only comes out at night, and he lives under your bed. So as long as you don't fall asleep on your bed, you'll be fine." All right, let's get into this leaked copy of a script that was written by Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connelly, his co-writer. Now, Colin Trevorrow, let's take people back to a few weeks ago. He did disavow publicly on Twitter a story on MakingStarWars.net about some details that were allegedly in his one of his scripts or his treatment or his story, whatever. And so the story posted, it got some buzz, and then Colin Trevorrow himself said, "Yikes, that's rough." Normally I'd say nothing, but not a single thing in here, he's referring to the story, was ever in any screenplay Derek and I wrote. Not one thing. Yeah. All the best to you guys. But that is not the same thing as what we're talking about here. Still both rumors, but this, Jim, is supposedly a script that was, from December 16th. That's the date on the title page, December 16th, 2016. And as you point out, 1 week before the untimely death of our beloved princess, Carrie Fisher. So this would have been a script that was written with the expectation that Carrie would be fully available.
Yes. Right. So let's just jump into it. I'm going to summarize it real quick based on a summary that I pulled up off of Reddit. So thank you, Reddit. Here is the name of it. It's Star Wars Episode IX, Duel of the Fates.
Yeah, where have I heard that?
So that's
just so Star Warsy.
Duel of the Fates.
I know. Yeah, it's
okay.
Right. John Williams.
Well, it's a throwback to Episode 1, clearly.
Yeah. You think they were serious about that, or was that like a placeholder? That had to be a placeholder, right? They wouldn't do that. That's a little on the nose.
I don't. Yeah, this is a rough draft. So,
right.
I mean, basically, the whole thing could have been a placeholder. And actually, it turned out it actually was.
Right, that's true.
We'll put this in place until JJ comes on board.
It's true.
But this is being reported by a guy named Robert Burnett. Is that his name? He's a YouTuber, and he got a copy of the script. And so here's a summary that I found on Reddit. Here's what the crawl says. The iron grip of the First Order has spread to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Only a few scattered planets remain unoccupied. Traitorous acts are punishable by death. Determined to suffocate a growing unrest, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren has silenced all communication between neighboring systems. Led by General Leia Organa, the Resistance has planned a secret mission to prevent their annihilation and forge a path to freedom. It opens at the Kuat shipyards, which is old school expanded universe reference to the Kuat shipyards, which is where a lot of the old TIE fighters and Star Destroyers used to be built, I believe. Rey shows up disguised as a Tusken Raider, and she's created her own lightsaber. It's a double blader. It's a hybrid of her staff and Luke's cracked saber. Poe, Finn, Rose, Rey, and BB-8 steal a Star Destroyer, and they escape. The First Order is headquartered on Coruscant. It's no longer a vibrant city. It's run down and oppressed. Hux is now Chancellor Hux. Kylo Ren is the supreme ruler, and he's off on a mission to Mustafar. And he's haunted by Luke's Force Ghost. Luke says to him, they're on Mustafar, "This is where the dark path leads, an empty tomb." Kylo says, "Where did your path lead?" Luke is trying to convince him to go back to Leia. Kylo says, "I'm going to be more powerful than any Jedi, even you." In Vader's temple, we go into Vader's temple on Mustafar. Kylo finds a Sith holocron, not a wayfinder, which reveals a hologram of Palpatine. It's a recording for Vader. Palpatine has plan B for Vader if Luke kills him. Vader is to take Luke to the Remencore system to see Tor Valum, master of the Sith and Palpatine's teacher. The holocron explodes and releases red lightning, which burns Kylo's face. Kylo makes it back to Coruscant, and his face is all ripped up. And so they smelt Mandalorian armor and apply it to his face.
A smelting accident.
Yes, smelting accident. He's known at the cafeteria as Beskar face. Rey is researching those Jedi texts she stole from Ahch-To, and she discovers that underneath the Jedi temple on Coruscant, there's a communications device called a Force Beacon, and it can send a signal to 50 planets. So they devise a plan to use it to reach out to allies. In the meantime, Rey is training and being trained by, she's just training, but she does receive a visitation from Force Ghost Luke, who is pushing her to get stronger in the Force. And so at the meantime, he's also working on Kylo to redeem him and let Ben out. Luke and Rey continue their exchange. Rey tries to back away from being a Jedi. She admits she is no one, and Luke is trying to convince her. He says the Force is speaking to her. Back to this Force beacon on Coruscant. They send a team made up of Rose, Finn, R2, and 3PO to go and activate the beacon on Coruscant, while Rey, Poe, and Chewbacca go to a planet to assist Rey through her journey as a Jedi. She needs to, it's very vague there in that area, so you don't know what that's all about.
Yeah.
These notes are all over the place right here.
Yeah, so's the script.
Rey believes there's still good in Kylo. Leia is skeptical. Kylo reaches Remingkor and confronts Tor Valum, who's 7,000 years old, and he's an alien. And Kylo begins training with him in the dark side of the Force. There's a callback to Empire, the cave on Dagobah. Kylo fights Vader. The fight is brutal, and Kylo loses. Rey and Kylo eventually get to Mortis. Leia asks Lando if he'll organize the smugglers and fight the First Order. Leia then brings her forces to Coruscant to battle the First Order. There's a massive space battle and a massive ground battle, and Chewie flies an X-Wing. Rey and Kylo continue to battle on Mortis using Force energy that can pull from each other. At some point, it's revealed that Kylo killed Rey's parents at the behest of Snoke. Towards the end,
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Luke, Obi-Wan, and Yoda appear as Force ghosts to save Ben, but are unsuccessful. And Ben is, quote, extinguished. So I don't know what that means. If it's like the Wicked Witch of the West, they throw a bucket of water on him or something.
What a bummer, man. Like, he's not redeemed. He just dies.
He's not. He just dies. He gets wiped out. He's extinguished, which means he probably gets consumed by the Force somehow or something. So the Resistance wins, First Order loses, and then one other note is Han Solo does appear in the script and does confront Kylo at some point, much like what we see in The Rise of Skywalker. So there's other parts of it, but that's just the main plot stuff that I wanted to pull out and discuss, just really throw it out there. And so if you guys have anything you want to say about this Colin Trevorrow leaked Rise of Skywalker, or Episode 9, we shouldn't even call it a Rise of Skywalker rough draft, just Episode 9, because it was going to be called Duel of Fates. Right. And so if you guys got anything you want to say about that, give us a call. The phone bank is open, 708-3201 RFR.
What? No, that's the voicemail line. This is
that's
866. 708-866-1737. Yeah.
Wrong neighborhood.
So I have a few observations to sort of kick us off here. And there's some folks on the chat that I think are, perhaps confused, or maybe we're confused. They're saying, no, this was debunked by Colin Trevorrow. To my knowledge, this was not debunked. This version was not debunked. What they're saying, what he did debunk on Twitter was the story that was on Making Star Wars, where they claimed that they had some information about Rey's backstory origin, according to Colin Trevorrow. That was debunked. This script, again, to my knowledge, has not been debunked, but if you've got a link that says otherwise, we'd love to see it. Send it to us at rebelforceradio.com.
I've heard a few sources say that they've been able to verify this. Now, I mean, it is the internet and people talk out of their butts all the time, but
not us.
Like occasionally, not us. Yeah. But, a lot of people are saying it's legit. I don't think Colin has actually spoken out about it. But, yeah, he did, before the release of The Rise of Skywalker, shoot down some rumors about his script. I don't recall exactly what those rumors are, and I don't really care to go back and revisit that stuff, especially after Colin debunked it. But this stuff all sounds kind of fresh to me. I haven't heard any of this stuff before.
Well, and not only, I mean, look, here's the thing. We were also privy to some rumors back when this script and Colin Trevorrow was working on Episode 9. This does ring some bells for me of things that we were hearing a few years ago as potential plot points. So I think that it's very plausible. A few observations, if I may. And once again, give us a call at 708-866-1737. We'll hear what you have to think. But a few thoughts that I have about this. One, first of all, obviously it's very, very different from what we saw in theaters with The Rise of Skywalker, J.J. Abrams' version. I think this particular story feels very Last Jedi to me, having the two different groups, one of the things I really enjoyed and the cast really enjoyed about JJ's Rise of Skywalker is that the core cast, the new trio was out on an adventure together. This version has Rose and Finn and BB-8 doing their thing. It's got Poe and Rey doing their thing with Chewie. I also don't think that this really, I know a lot of people are saying, wow, this really sounds better than the film that we got. I don't think so. I think this feels all over the place. There's no Ben Demption. I mean, what a bummer. Not only does he die, but we don't even get moments of a heroic Ben Solo. It is interesting, this idea that he gets like metal or Beskar fused to his face, so perhaps becoming Vader-like, more Vader-like, as opposed to just having the mask. I thought that was kind of interesting. There's no Reylo. There's no mention of a Reylo moment. And the other thing that is interesting is this was supposed to be, according to early reports, Episode 7 was Han's movie, Episode 8 was Luke's film, Episode 9 was Carrie Fisher's film, Princess Leia's film. Princess Leia doesn't seem to be playing a huge role in this version, despite the fact that as it was being written, she was still with us. So I thought that was really interesting. Also, the idea of Luke sort of, now don't get me wrong, when I say playing both sides, I don't think he's playing both sides against the middle, but Luke visiting Kylo / Ben, Luke training, helping to train Rey. So having an influence in both their lives, kind of Palpatine, but like a good Palpatine in a way. And the other thing that is odd to me is I feel like it's more believable, Jim, I don't know how you feel, but I think it's more believable that Palpatine is alive than his former master, who we heard him say in Revenge of the Sith that he killed in his sleep.
Right. Who's this guy?
Who's this Tor Valum?
Yeah. What about Darth Plagueis? We know that story as well as we know it, and now all of a sudden that there's like some Sith instructor out there,
Sith master.
That seems to be kind of playing with smoke and mirrors a little bit. I prefer having Palpatine back.
I do
don't really, at the end of the day, I love the character, the evil Emperor. I love that character. And I don't really care how he came back. I really don't. I'm just happy he's in the film because it makes sense. Like I said, it was Palpatine who got all the wheels in motion from the very beginning. The Phantom Menace.
The Phantom Menace from the beginning. And
before the Skywalkers were even a blip on the radar, he was dealing, yes, with the Queen of Naboo, who, essentially, she's the one who got all the wheels in motion for the Skywalker involvement.
You're right. She was like patient zero in this hatred that
Did
Palpatine
you say
had.
Zero?
Yeah.
No, you better not be giving it to old Amidala.
Well, their paths crossed, certainly.
But just because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, both were from Naboo. Palpatine, and Amidala.
She was an obstacle that proved to be nearly insurmountable for him.
It was what, the famous line from Snoke, darkness rises and light to meet it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it wasn't Padme was the answer.
Right.
But her connection with another Force user did become the answer. And the ramifications of that romance made, it had like repercussions all the way to the end here, the Rise of Skywalker. Because I hear a lot of people go, how could this be the Rise of Skywalker when all the Skywalkers are dead at the end of the movie? But, it's more about using the name and the influence that name has.
What it symbolizes. It's a symbol. Yeah, I totally agree. It
denounces the darkness.
Right.
And to seal the deal, then Rey goes and moves into the old Lars homestead.
Well, does she really? Do you think she moves in?
Does, because the track from the John Williams soundtrack is titled "A New Home," not "A New Hope," "A New Home."
Really?
Yes. And
Who
she
writes
likes
those track titles.
She likes the sand. I think John does. Doesn't he? I think he is the composer, so he applies the title to them.
But does he run them by JJ? Because he come up like JJ, baby.
They collaborate.
I got a list of titles here for you.
I know that
he calls everybody baby.
John
Williams.
Does. Yeah. Yes, he does, with his turtleneck, looking sharp, and he looked great in The Rise of Skywalker. We haven't even talked about the John Williams cameo. He was there on Kijimi at the Cruise Hangout. It was a bar. I believe the bar was upstairs and Babu Fricks was downstairs. And they're serving drinks at the bar. Well, he was actually just kind of wiping down a glass.
Yeah.
It was John Williams. He's got this big device on his eye.
He's like an eye patch or a
magnifying glass.
Oh, it was a magnifying glass.
Yeah. It was a big, huge magnifying glass because
he's like a jeweler or something.
He's making such intense drinks. He has to really get down and dirty with the liquids there. And if you notice, I think this is a tribute to the IG-88 head that you see in the Mos Eisley Cantina there in the tubing that you assume is where the drinks come from.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Those IG-88 heads there, which are actually like a catalytic converter for some old car. But if you look behind Williams over his shoulder, there's a 21B head plugged into all the tubes and stuff. So there's something they do with the adult beverages in the Star Wars galaxy where they have to run it through a droid brain to make it the best liquid concoction.
I want to go to a Star Wars bar. Not like a fake one. I want to go to a real Star Wars bar where the drinks are so complex that they actually have to run them through a droid brain. That's
and the
incredible.
Bartender has to wear a magnifying glass on his eye to mix the drinks because it's that precise of a science.
So Star Wars Episode 9 has been in the theaters for, 30 days, 28 days, 29, 28, 29, 30 days? Whatever it is. And I know a lot of people are interested in the box office. They think that's, you know what, I really don't care about box office, to be honest with you. I don't care about box office, and I don't care about critics. I never have, really. But some people are throwing it out there as it's, a big story. So let's go over to what can they tell us at Box Office Mojo? Where are we at here? Worldwide box office for Rise of Skywalker, over $1 billion. So it hit the $1 billion mark.
Yeah.
It's half of what Force Awakens did at $2 billion. Last Jedi did $1.3 billion. Over here we got Rogue One. You can't see the headers, but Rogue One just did a little over $1 billion. That was a huge surprise. That was like pay dirt, man. They had no idea that was going to be a huge success. And I got to give voice to so many, including our good buddy Chris Mocht, who still to this day say that Rogue One is their favorite Star Wars movie of the Disney era. So, Rogue One with a very respectable box office and a respectable, fan following and fan passion. And this little $392 million job, $393 million job was Solo, a film that I feel gets better and better. Still, for me, gets better and better each time I see it.
Yeah, I've become pretty apathetic about Solo.
Oh, really? Like, don't care at all?
Yeah,
really?
I just, to me, it feels like a made-for-TV Star Wars movie sometimes. I got to give it another chance. I really do.
Yeah,
I really do. Way. I'm so apathetic about Solo.
Is it because there's no future for it? Like, what's the fun? Because it's a one and done.
That could be partially it, because it does lay down some tracks that it's questionable whether anything's going to be done beyond what they did with it. And I don't know. I just can't get on board with someone else playing Han Solo other than Harrison Ford at this moment in time. I just can't. I've struggled with that. I've struggled to death with that. I still can't get used to someone else playing freaking Mr. Spock on Star Trek other than Leonard Nimoy. I'm so apathetic about all the Star Treks.
I was really digging what was going on with the Star Trek films. I didn't really care for the ending of the second one where they did the whole Wrath of Khan ripoff. The third one kind of felt like a cool, trippy 2-hour original series episode to me. Kind of dug that. I just enjoy those characters, and I really thought that cast was a fine replacement. So I wasn't apathetic about it, but Chris Pine sort of threw all that. He ran off to be Wonder Woman's number 2, so he gave up Star Trek for Wonder Woman. Though,
he's done.
Yeah, I think choosing between Jeremy Quinto and Gal Gadot, I'd probably choose Gal Gadot.
I wish they would greenlight that Quentin Tarantino Star Trek. I think that would just be the bomb.
Really? Yeah. Oh, that's the last thing I want to see. I mean, maybe
really? I don't even look at the new Star Trek. It just doesn't interest me at all.
What about Picard? I know Picard.
Picard. Boom. I'll be back in.
Those
Picard.
commercials are ramping up. Yeah, man.
That's next week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be all about Picard.
We might have to do a RFR spinoff.
Patreon special at least.
We might need to do that.
Yeah.
I've even got the wife on board the Picard show. She's excited about Picard.
Yeah, I think I'll be watching it with Wendy as well, because she's way into TV nowadays, and she got on board with The Mandalorian, which I still can't believe. So she knows
awesome.
Trek.
That's awesome. Hey, one more thing before we're gonna get to the calls here in just a minute. Thank you everybody for holding. We should talk about real quick the Oscars. We got the Oscars coming up. The nominations just came out. And, Star Wars, of course, is no stranger to Oscar nominations. So we've got 3 for Rise of Skywalker. They've been nominated in the categories of Best Sound, Best Visual Effects, and Best Score. So they're getting 3 noms. But do you know it's been all the way since Return of the Jedi that a Star Wars movie has actually brought home an Oscar?
That's right. Yeah.
1983 was the last time. Star Wars as a franchise has had over 40-some. What's going on? Oh, geez, these browser. What the geez, freaking blah blah blah. Yeah,
all of George Lucas's contemporaries: Spielberg, Coppola, Scorsese. They've all won Best Director Oscars. George never won a Best Director Oscar.
He did get the Cecil B. DeMille Lifetime Achievement.
Yes. He did. Yeah, he did get that. And that was probably the last time Star Wars was ever really honored by the Academy.
Yeah.
It certainly didn't receive anything, which is shocking to note that it didn't receive anything during the prequel era, because those films, on a technological standpoint, were truly groundbreaking.
Oh, amazing. Can you believe that? Nothing.
And the costumes and makeup was amazing in all of the prequels films. And of course, the visual effects, the sound design, everything. But here we're back in Star Wars is back at the Oscars, and some really well-deserved nominations here. 3 very well-deserved nominations, of course. Best original score from John Williams. Best sound editing for our buddies Matt Wood and David Acord at Skywalker Sound. What an incredible sounding film. That's something that really keeps me going back to see The Rise of Skywalker, specifically in IMAX over and over and over again, is the loud, awesome sound experience you get with IMAX and the amazing sound that fills this entire film. The bass moments can never be replicated at home. When it comes to IMAX, specific sequences when Kylo and Rey are having that forced tug of war with the Imperial shuttle or the First Order shuttle. And there's this heavy, heavy bass. It almost sounds like a feedback loop. And it's, it's supposed to represent the Force, and it's so loud when you see it in IMAX. The floor is shaking. Even Palpatine's voice itself, the bass is so incredible sounding in IMAX. Lightsabers, you name it. That's what keeps me going back to see it in IMAX. It's just, it becomes such you feel the bass rattle your rib cage, and that to me is.
I haven't seen it in IMAX. I gotta go before. I have no chance to do it yet.
Hey, we're last call here, pal.
I know, man. Wookie hookie.
I was very surprised to see The Rise of Skywalker remained in my local IMAX with 1917 debuting last week. I thought for sure 1917 would bounce The Rise of Skywalker out of my local IMAX, but it didn't. So I found myself back at the local IMAX this week again.
Amazing.
So I've seen it 6 times in the theater. And I think I'm probably going to see it a few more times because to me it's a great theatrical experience with the sound and the effects and the strobe lighting. I heard some people were having seizures.
Oh, well, it's a good movie when it forces people to seize.
I want to be on the floor vibrating,
Oh,
that's how I know I'm really into it.
Right. Yeah.
And listen, I don't mean to belittle people who have seizures. I know it's a struggle. We all have a struggle.
Not the point. Not the point. Let's count these nominations real quick. It's Oscar season, so every year we kind of do this. So go back and look at episode 4, New Hope, with 7 wins and 10 nominations. By the way, the maestro John Williams, I believe that this nomination for the Rise of Skywalker score is his 59th nomination.
That's possible. He broke his own record for most nominations.
Yes, right. So whatever it was, whoever had the record, before was John Williams. Incredible. So 7 wins and 10 nominations. The Empire Strikes Back came and we got 2 wins out of 3 nominations. Once again, John Williams, the maestro, getting the nod for Best Score. There was also Best Sound. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. I take that back. So there would have been a total of 5 nominations, 2 wins. Wait a minute. I'm reading this wrong. I'm getting way ahead of myself. Everybody just chill out. What did I get here? So Oscar wins 2, Oscar nominations 3, but there's only 2 listed.
Well, 2 wins, 3 nominations. Oh, I see what you're
See what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, this is Entertainment Weekly for you.
Well, it would be visual effects, obviously, is the 3rd nomination because it won. It won visual effects. So they just decided to make it difficult for anyone doing a podcast and looking at the article.
All right, Return of the Jedi with 1 win. This was the last time Star Wars got an Oscar award for visual effects. This was given as a specialty. Oh no, this is the charity award. This is the Robin Williams getting the award for the genie in Aladdin. Well, we didn't really have an award in this guy, so we'll just kind of give you a specialty.
Well, they did the same thing for Ben Burt back in 1977.
That's right. They did.
A great achievement in sound award. They didn't even know what to do. It was so great they had to invent an award for him.
Yeah. And then of course Force Awakens, as Jim mentioned, let's go down here to the prequels. 0 Oscar wins for the prequels. Episode 1, Phantom Menace, nothing.
Well,
3
by
nominations.
this point, George Lucas had really become a legitimate Hollywood outsider.
A pariah.
Yes, in many ways, yes.
Yeah.
And that's still being felt, that the impact of that is still being felt to this very day. The Academy has always been super biased against George Lucas.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, ever since he, did that thing where he's like, I'm not going to put the people's names for the credits, at the top of the movie, put it
He thumbed his nose at the unions there.
Yeah.
Especially he got kicked out of the directors union because he messed with the way they presented the credits in the film. And nowadays you go to a movie and you don't even see the title of the film until the very end.
Oh my God. You know what? I got to tell you.
He was so far ahead of his time.
The logos at the tops of these movies, you got 4 or 5 production companies. They got to put their logo out there. And then you got, who needs credits at the beginning? Just start the movie. We've already sat through 35 minutes of previews. Start the movie. Tell me the story. And if I want to see the credits, I'll wait for the end. I don't understand this. Everybody's got to get their moment in the sun. Wow, Solo got a nomination for visual effects. Revenge of the Sith. Oh, that's sad. Revenge of the Sith. 1 nomination just for the makeup. Probably just Palpatine.
And Anakin.
Power to save the one you love.
And Anakin.
And Anakin. Charred up Anakin. Yeah, fried Anakin. Attack of the Clones, again, just 1 nomination for visual effects. The prequels really kind of got the short end of the stick. Now, when it comes to the sequel trilogy, Force Awakens came out strong with 5 nominations, bringing the maestro back in. 0 wins, by the way. But John Williams was nominated. He had visual effects, sound mixing, sound editing, film editing. Last Jedi peeled off 1 nomination so from Force Awakens, so we have 4. Still John Williams, no win for John Williams. I think John Williams has actually probably competed against himself. I need to look that up. Has he ever been nominated for more than 1 movie in a given year? That's had to have happened.
Probably.
Yeah. I wonder if he ever lost to himself.
Probably. Well, when you're up there, you split the vote too, and you end up, working against yourself.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm getting a little itchy to.
What should we do? Take some calls?
To move into the calls. Before we start taking calls, though, I did want to mention that there are rumors out there that we could possibly see the release of an extended cut of The Rise of Skywalker. And there's big rumors about a director's cut being out there.
There's a hashtag.
Hashtag ReleaseTheJJCut. And these rumors all began swirling on Reddit when someone who claims to have spoken to an insider says that JJ turned into film, and the film then was further edited by the studio, and a lot of changes were made in post-production. Audio was re-recorded and altered, and JJ himself was even shocked when he saw it the first time. And the real conspiracy about this is stating the fact that J.J. Abrams has signed a deal with Warner Brothers, and J.J. is expected to go over there and start dipping his toes into the DC universe. And so Disney wanted to take things out of The Rise of Skywalker as an attempt to maybe sabotage J.J. Abrams somehow. It gets pretty wild, some of these speculation and rumors about a J.J. Abrams director's cut that's out there, where it would include things about, more information about Finn being Force sensitive, more information about the relationship between Janna and Lando, where it's revealed that she's actually Lando's daughter. And big changes in the Kylo Ray scene at the end, where it was supposed to be much, much longer.
How do they do the Janna Lando father-daughter? How do they pull that off?
Well, apparently, and this is a story that we're going to probably be hearing more about in other medium, is Lando had his daughter taken away from him by the First Order when she was very young.
All right.
Years prior.
Sounds plausible.
The Rise of Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, she was conscripted then as a stormtrooper. And so what we saw, the little exchange between the two of them at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, is scratching the surface about a bigger relationship between the two of them, a history between the two of them, to the point where she could be the daughter that he lost to the First Order and their harsh recruitment tactics where they would steal babies and stuff. So Lando, more about that. And then more with the Kylo Ren scene at the end, dialogue. Ben's death ended up happening in the editing, the tinkering around by the studio. JJ was against the Reylo kiss, and Disney tinkered with the film to include all that stuff. I don't know. I take a lot of that stuff with a grain of salt, but I do believe that there's a longer cut of The Rise of Skywalker out there. It's just natural. As the film was being edited down, things got left on the cutting room floor, and I think there was a lot of exposition there that got thrown aside, and that's very typical of a J.J. Abrams sort of production, where all that happens in the editing process, where J.J. develops all these little mysteries that he likes to do. The same thing happened with The Force Awakens. The big difference was The Rise of Skywalker was really under the gun, though, because they had 3 months less to work on that than they did The Force Awakens, yada, yada, yada. So we'll have more information about that in an upcoming Rebel Force Radio in the next few weeks. The editor for the film did an interview, and she talked a little bit more about that. So we'll look deeper into that. But I would love it if there was a re-release, an extended re-release, that very much like they did with the Marvel Avengers Endgame. That film was re-released with some additional footage. I would love to see that Rise of Skywalker. God, I would love to see that. And
yeah,
I think
that would be cool. That
would really help soothe a lot of
cool.
wounds.
The problem is if any of the JJ cut would contradict the cut that we've already seen. If it just adds on, that's cool. But if it contradicts, that could be a problem. But let's see what our callers have to say about this.
Open up the phone lines here. We are taking calls, your calls right now at 708 866-1RFR. That's 866-1737.
All right. Here's a voice and a name that you haven't heard in a long time. How about Sonny from New Orleans?
Hey!
Yo, Sonny.
Hey, guys.
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm here.
Gosh, we haven't heard from you since, I think, opening night of The Force Awakens was the last time we heard from you. And
where you been the last 5 years?
Wow.
Bookending the sequel trilogy for us.
I love it. Sunny bookends.
Well, I don't think you guys would be too happy with me. I need counseling, guys. I really do.
Uh-oh. We're here.
Hear it. Yeah.
The doctor is in.
Since May of, since the summer of 77. So I saw A New Hope in the summer of 77. And
Sonny, you're not old enough to have seen A New Hope in 77. There's no way.
Well, my parents took me in the summer. I mean, I didn't just get in the car and drive myself. I was 7.
Okay, all right. You were 7. Okay, cool. So you're part of the original generation. All right. Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah. Me and Jimmy are the same age. And the funny thing is, okay, so I've been to every Star Wars premiere since Empire, and I'm sorry, but I have a confession to make.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't go to see Rise of Skywalker. And all my friends were mad at me because we've just teamed up and have gone to every premiere since the prequels. And I just didn't want to go. I just cared less about it.
Whoa.
They lost me.
Wow, man. All right. So we're here for you. So have you seen the movie at all? Have you seen the movie?
I wouldn't pay to go see it. A friend of mine came over with the copy and forced me to watch.
Oh, you saw, wait a minute. You saw a brand new Star Wars movie on some cheap bootleg from
Let
a
me tell
third
you,
world
that's
country?
rough,
What's
man.
going on?
That goes against everything I've ever stood for.
Yeah.
But
Did you not hear what I was saying
mind,
about the sound quality of the IMAX presentation and all of that? You're
I
throwing all of that away.
I understand all of that. When it comes out on Disney Plus, which I'm already paying for, I'll watch it in my living room. But you might as well tell me to read a book. You know, to me, this is all fan fiction that just went haywire.
You're talking about the whole sequel trilogy here.
Sequel trilogy,
including Force Awakens.
It started off. You know, the funny thing about that is when The Force Awakens came out, I gave it a 7 out of 10, and I said to myself, okay, because it really teed up so many things for the next movie to hit, and when none of that happened, a good sequel could have made the preceding movie a better movie, but it failed so badly it made it a worse movie.
All right. So you're saying that that Last Jedi derailed it to the point that it was just never going to bounce back for you. That was it.
That's right. And my heart's broken over it. And I need counseling, and I feel wrong.
I think you just need a movie ticket.
And, you know, the funny thing is,
bag of popcorn is all you really need.
For years of listening to you guys, I know. My friends tell me I'm overreacting.
I think you are a little bit. And I understand what you're saying about Episode 8 derailing your passion for Star Wars. You're not alone. Look at the box office numbers. They've decreased with each film. And even though they're massive successes in their own right, I mean, Episode 9 has brought in $1 billion worldwide. It's still not, King of the Hill type stuff that the original trilogy and the prequels in many cases, and even, of course, The Force Awakens, king of the all-time domestic box office. So there's, what do you think it's going to do? Increase over time? No, everyone's on board for the launch. And then with the second film of the trilogy, it proved to be extremely divisive. And now Episode 9 is really paying the price for that. And the Star Wars franchise on a whole, I fear, is paying a price for that too. Because then you have all the people who absolutely adored Episode 8, and they feel like Episode 9 did it totally dirty. And so, while trying to appease these two fractions of the fan base, because it has become fractured, and it's almost like pick a lane at this point in time. And so I think
I feel like you and I, we all know what a good movie is comprised of. We all know the formulas of good movies, character arcs. Sometimes I sit and I watch a Marvel movie, just as an example, and I'll watch a 2-minute conversation, and in that conversation, I understand everything about that character. It's revealing, and it doesn't feel forced. And I feel like now I'm concerned about that character, and I care. And I keep waiting for that scene in the sequel trilogy, and I'm not finding anything that's well done as far as character development, making me care for these characters. In the Rise of Skywalker, the humor felt so forced. It was corny. And I don't mean corny like Star Wars corny. I mean, it was like modern humor that went wrong. It just went wrong.
Like Babu Frick is modern humor. Like Babu Frick is, see, like that's funny to me. Babu Frick. And there's
some cute things in there.
There's no basis.
That was start.
I get what you're saying, Sonny. Yeah. I do. I really do. I find it unfortunate because I'm having a lot of fun with this.
Like when Poe and Rey first meet up after he lands with the Falcon on fire, that whole interchange was awkward. I felt like that was a take they shouldn't have even kept. It just felt weird. Nobody talks to each other like that in real life. It was badly acted or badly written or both. And I don't know. It just, I think J.J. Abrams did the best he could I don't think anybody could have done a better job at trying to fix what was broken. It's just unfortunate. So I don't blame JJ. I blame Ruin Johnson for everything he did to the Star Wars sequels.
Well, that's a very fair assessment on your part, and yeah, I mean, it's we certainly have gone from being a united fan base to I don't know what the hell it is nowadays.
Now, Sonny, you did say that you're a subscriber to Disney Plus. I'm assuming that because of that, you've seen The Mandalorian. What are your thoughts there? Is that something that gives you hope and optimism for the future of Star Wars?
It absolutely does. The Mandalorian is fantastic, and I'm a kind of person who doesn't read critical reviews, because what's a critic? Just somebody else who's given an opinion on a show or a movie. No, The Mandalorian was well done by two individuals who know Star Wars and know how to tell a story and know how to develop characters. Mm-hmm. And yes, that gives me hope, and I can't wait to see that. See, they set a high bar for Disney Plus series, and that's a good thing. And I'm excited, and I'm happy. And it gave me that's the new hope. If you look at it, yeah.
All right. Hey, dude, it was great to hear from you. Please don't be a stranger. I know you're not a big fan of this trilogy, but we're a big fan of yours, and we need to hear your voice more often. So please continue to stay in touch with us. You've been with us for a long time, man. So great to hear back from you.
Yeah, and you guys have been a part of my life for a long time, and I hate the fact that this is my conversation right now. So
it's okay. Time, we want you to be real about it.
I'll have a better conversation.
Yeah, that's okay.
We'll be looking
here. Well, I'm sorry.
No, it's right. I was just going to say, we'll be looking back at the whole first season of Mandalorian in totality. So could be a completely different conversation we're having than this one. So take care, buddy. Thanks very much. Let's shoot over to Michigan. I think we've got Christian from Michigan. Hello, you're on with Rebel Force Radio. Where'd you go, Christian?
Say yes to Michigan.
Let me try again.
You probably got the name wrong.
No.
All right.
Is this Christian?
It is.
Hey.
It is me.
All right. Welcome, Michigan.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Great.
Good.
Good. Yeah, I've just been listening for the past probably 30 minutes, and when you guys started talking about that Trevorrow script, I mean, that opening crawl, and if you thought the taxation of trade routes was bad, then, in my opinion, I mean,
the iron grip of the First Order.
It's so dismal.
Yeah, it was a downer, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
Well, you know what it does do?
The whole outline.
It builds on.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, let's just take a look at it. The iron grip of the First Order is spread to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Only a few scattered planets remain unoccupied. So that really, tells you right there what the state of the galaxy's in. Traitorous acts are punishable by death, determined to suffocate a growing unrest. So that indicates that the galaxy, a lot of people point to that and say that the galaxy has responded to the appearance of Luke Skywalker on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And there has been more protesting going on and civil unrest. Kylo Ren has silenced all communication between neighboring systems. So that's, of course, what totalitarian governments do, is they suffocate free communication. Led by General Leia Organa, the Resistance has planned a secret mission to prevent their annihilation and forge a path to freedom. I don't know, man. When you match that up against Episode 1, that sounds far more exciting to me than taxation of trade routes. This actually has. There's actually a bit of activity and action going on with this crawl. I don't fault this crawl at all, because it tells you exactly what you need to know going into the film, and I think that's fair. I guess for me, it just sounded a little too dismal in the spirit of fun and adventure of Star Wars. And kind of the whole outline itself, like
what Kylo Ren is off and he's by himself and he's got a beard and he's doing some solo adventure. It sounded like.
Yeah.
From the script.
Yeah. Where it talks about he's searching for obviously the Sith holocron. But they do say that you can tell that his hunt has been going on for a while because he has stubble indicating the search has been going on for a long time. Yeah. You know what? This does seem quite a bit darker than what we would see in other Star Wars, save for maybe Revenge of the Sith, where we knew that whole trilogy was about the rise of darkness overtaking the galaxy, so it had to end in darkness. When you're dealing with,
I love the idea of the battle.
Also, but what do you think of all of this? Going. What do you think of all of this if this film was not being promoted as the end of the Skywalker saga? It was just episode 9 of maybe 12. I would be far more open-minded to all of this stuff, and far more open-minded to The Last Jedi, for that matter, if it was episode 8 of 12. But episode 8 of 9 is just like, oh God, everything just got derailed, and we have to pull it all back for The Rise of Skywalker. That's why I like the film in general, is because it's accomplishing something that I thought was impossible at this point. And is it sloppy?
I completely agree.
Yes, it is. It's ridiculously sloppy. But when you look back at Return of the Jedi, if you actually could, without the lens of history and familiarity with that film, a lot of people walked out of Return of the Jedi going, oh, okay, that was all tied up nice and tidy with a nice little bow on top of it. There was nothing. There were no risks being taken with Return of the Jedi.
Right.
And so I find the tone here is very similar in The Rise of Skywalker. A lot of people are using that as a criticism of the film and a way to attack it. But I think it seems pretty consistent with the history of Star Wars, especially Return of the Jedi.
I agree. I was expecting it to be a full, like it was marketed as a full rundown of the whole saga. Personally, I grew up during the prequel era, so I was kind of expecting more prequel callbacks. And there are some in there, but they're not too overt. I mean, there's some Naboo and one Starfighters in there, but you it's like a blink and you'll miss it sort of thing.
Yeah, and Palpatine in general, his presence in general, I think, is a stronger callback to the prequel trilogy than to the original trilogy, quite honestly. Because we see more Palpatine in the prequel trilogy. We get to know him better. He's a big mystery in the original trilogy, quite honestly. Excuse me. And he's repeating lines from Revenge of the Sith when he says, the dark side is a pathway, all of that.
Yeah.
It's
unnatural. And then they show his creepy phantom face.
Yes.
Yeah. That's like a total horror movie shot right there, too.
It really is.
Just the flashing of light.
The strobe lights.
The sound design with that screeching sound. It sounds like someone is taking a metal sheet and scraping it against a coarse surface, and it's this high-pitched screech and the lightning and all of that stuff. I just love it all. I love Palpatine being back, and I don't care. Like I said, I don't care how he came back. I give a rat's ass. I'm just happy he's back.
Well, you know what? We went through something similar with Darth Maul in the Clone Wars. A lot of people were like, wait a minute, he was cut in half. How is he back? But the way they presented him in Clone Wars, he was so cool and such a great character, an extension of the Maul that we saw in the prequels or in episode 1, that we didn't care how he came back at the end of the day. We were just glad to have him back. And he was such a great character to have in that story.
Yeah, I think they brought Palpatine away in a sensible way. I mean, I think they're like, the editor had to say Marianne, I think her name is.
Yeah.
They didn't want to reveal too much, and I think even the line itself from Revenge of the Sith, just the the dark side is a pathway to many abilities that many consider to be unnatural. That explains it enough for me. And that's part of the fun of the speculation of Star Wars, is that you can talk with your friends and talk like we are right now about what does he mean by that? Is it a clone body? Did he transfer his essence or whatever?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, we're really living
in with the mythology.
We're really living in prime time for Star Wars fandom right now, where we're unencumbered by West End game rule books and there's the visual dictionary is out there, of course. Yes, right. We have that, but there's not even a novelization or a freaking comics adaptation right now. We can fill in the blanks any way we want.
Yeah.
And then when it all gets revealed to us, we'll be upset it didn't live up to our expectations, and we'll burn down the house because we're Star Wars fans and that's what we do. God bless us all.
Exactly. Just the idea, and this is something that's been bothering me since The Last Jedi, just the idea that, and this goes into the mythology, is kind of how I want to branch it into that, how Rey was, Ryan wrote Rey in The Last Jedi, Kylo told her, you're a nobody, your parents were nobodies, that whole thing. And people took Ben or Kylo Ren's word for it right there, when throughout the movie he kind of proves himself to be an unreliable narrator in a sense, because he lies to Snoke when he says he didn't hesitate when he killed Han Solo.
That's right.
And then he lied to Hux about how Rey killed Snoke. So at that point, you can't really trust the character in a sense. So and this might be me just trying, back in 2 years ago, trying to reconcile it, that I'm just trying to come up with a reason to have something happen in Episode 9. He wasn't lying. It's gonna be the opposite of Vader. Vader's telling the truth, but Ben's lying.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Kind of an interesting parallel.
Yeah, and I like that.
And the rap on Ben, Kylo Ren, is that he's never been able to live up to the legacy of his grandfather. So that's a perfect example of him failing along the way. We never really see Ben fail in his pursuit of the dark side. We hear things that he's pulled to the light. We hear, Rey assess him and say, I could see through the cracks in your mask and all that stuff. But we never really see Ben struggling with it too much on his own as far as that goes. Now, here's something interesting. A lot of people have been talking about Luke in this Trevorrow script coming back and taunting Kylo and trying to bring Kylo back around to the light side as a Force ghost. And that matches up with my expectations of what I thought we'd see in Episode 9, judging on the confrontation between Luke and Kylo on Crate, when Luke says, I'll always be with you, just like your father. And he goes, see you around, kid. And he disappears. And people are like, well, why wasn't Luke haunting Kylo Ren in The Rise of Skywalker? And I say there is a moment in the film where there is evidence that Luke's spirit is haunting Kylo. It's at that moment when Rey is training at the beginning of the film. She's training on that in the jungle planet, and Kylo he wants to make the connection to her, and he grabs the Vader helmet, and because apparently that amplifies his connection to the dark side or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he uses it, and he does, make contact with Rey. She immediately starts struggling on the training course. She trips and wipes out, and the seeker droid shoots her, and she's just struggling and everything. And Kylo reaches out, and then you see this flash of all of these images, and you see it starts out in this progression. You see Kylo is seeing what Rey is seeing. She's getting the vision of the Sith throne, of Darkseid Rey. And then all of a sudden, right in the middle of that vision, you see Luke on Ahch-To. Then it shifts over to a vision of Kylo reliving the moment where he kills Han Solo. And he immediately pulls his hand off of the helmet. Like, oh my God, that didn't go the way I thought it would. And I look at that as Luke's spirit intervening with Kylo. At that moment, he's trying to make that connection with Rey. And then Rey has her vision, which she explains to Finn later in the film. And Kylo then gets haunted by, you see Kylo being haunted by the vision of killing Han Solo. And the thing that separates those two visions is a quick glimpse of Luke on Ahch-To. Why is that? Because Luke is intervening in that vision itself, and he's making it bounce back to Kylo. so he gets a little taste of his own medicine. That's what I think.
The last line in that. Yeah, that last line in that vision too is Luke in Empire saying, "You killed him," like when he's talking to Vader. Like, he told me you killed him.
Ah,
and it's almost like it could be Luke talking to him in that way.
Interesting.
That vision.
Interesting. That got by me, that little bit of dialogue, but that could actually be something indicating the divine intervention of the spirit of Luke Skywalker, on Kylo Ren at that moment. So that could be,
Hey, thanks, Christian. Appreciate it very much, dude.
Yeah.
Did you have one other thing?
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
thanks,
no.
Chris.
Great to have you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't want to keep you guys on the line.
Oh no, I'm trying to hang up on you, but it doesn't want to. So no, I think the will of the Force is that we hear from you. So get it out real quick, because it's in the process of hanging up on you.
All right. Okay. Oh shoot. Palpatine, her being a Palpatine, it goes in line with the mythological roots of the franchise. Her being descended from great power, almost royalty, divinity, that sort of thing. That goes in line with the divinity or the mythology of the franchise.
Yes, it does. I agree.
And even her turning to Skywalker, it shows that she rejects those roots, and it still goes in line with the message of the Last Jedi. So it's kind of playing both sides of what the fans want, but I don't know if it succeeded. That's all. Okay.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Christian. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we're having some technical difficulties. I think the internet
did we lose our...
Well, the fact that I can still see you and talk to you, I think is good. I actually think that, I don't know what to think here. This is odd because I'm not able to drop calls. But let's see if I can add calls. If I can't add calls, we might need to wrap this a little early.
Yeah. If you can add someone and they can hang up on themselves. That'd be perfect.
Right. All right. Let's see. Who do we want here? Let's try Maryland. Let's see if Maryland can jump on.
East Coast.
Yeah, Waldorf, Maryland. Maybe. It's spinning. I think we're having some problems. So we might need to wrap this one up a little early, but certainly lots of great discussion, lots of great thoughts. The Trevorrow stuff is really fascinating to me. I have really I like having it's. What's interesting, Jim, is the fact that it's almost like these alternate scripts are being thrown at us as though it's supposed to cause controversy. Hello, we're Star Wars fans. We publish old screenplays and devour them. Novelizations, comic adaptations. We love all these different takes. We love the fact that Owen Lars mentions duck in the novelization of the original Star Wars movie. So we can take this as fans. We can reconcile this. I think it makes for a great conversation. It's interesting. One of my favorite books in the whole world is the annotated screenplays of Star Wars. Now, some people are out there saying, well, it's a different story because we're talking about a screenplay of one guy. Not necessarily. You got the Hayeks in there. You've got Lawrence Kasdan. You've got, forgive me, what's the name of the wonderful lady who passed away? Lee Brackett, who was working on Empire. So there have been alternate screenwriters throughout the history of Star Wars, even the beloved original trilogy.
Yeah, this is true. And it is always fun to go and pick through the early drafts, especially of the original film from George Lucas. There's a website out there. I have no relationship with them, but I certainly have used it a lot of times. Star Wars with a Z. Star Wars with a Z. I think it's a .com. I'm not 100% sure, but Star Wars with a Z. And they have all of the rough drafts, early drafts of many of the films, and especially the original stuff from George Lucas. So I've spent hours poring over all of that stuff, and it's great stuff. And of course, we love our books like The Secret History of Star Wars, and the audiobook that accompanies that, and all of that stuff that gives us little inclinations a little insight into how the story was actually composed. And we understand it goes through a lot of changes along the way. Never have we been in a case where someone got fired and then we're reading their take. Of course, Lee Brackett died when writing The Empire Strikes Back, thus necessitated the arrival of Lawrence Kasdan. And his influence has certainly been felt over the years on the Star Wars franchise in general. Yeah. So, the Force works in mysterious ways.
It does. But, I'll be honest. I'll tell you, I think the more compelling for me, not to take anything away from Colin Trevorrow and the scoop of this, script that was thrown away, but the JJ cut and some of the compromises that he made either knowingly or unknowingly in the final edits of his film. Now that I find really interesting. One of the ideas out there is that there might have been more to that finale scene where we would have seen the actual figures of Mace Windu, Anakin Skywalker, Qui-Gon Jinn. There were rumors of Ewan McGregor playing an older Obi-Wan Kenobi, but that there were certain foreign markets that didn't take to that idea, and that could have been a reason why we just heard voices instead. There's a lot, I think, to this JJ cut.
Well, if it does exist, I'd love to see it. As long as it's an extended version of this film and not an entirely different story.
Right.
I think that would complicate things. Sure, the curiosity would lead me to want to see it, but Episode 9 is Episode 9, and that's the story we have to work with. Whether you love it or you hate it, that's the story I'm going to be analyzing and try to make all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. Because at the end of the day, I don't care who wrote it. I don't care what they tweeted or what fan base they attacked or what their political inclinations are. I love Star Wars. And we are here with the completed 3-trilogy arc. And I think it's going to take a while for us to pick all of this apart and figure it out. And I'm more loyal to Star Wars than I am with any individual who worked on it. And I have to be, because Star Wars is going to continue on into the future, and we're going to have to work with the Star Wars we have. And,
that's right.
There's no rule out there saying you have to adore every single Star Wars film as much as you love your most beloved film. There's if the franchise is going to keep trucking along, there's going to be things that work for a fraction of people, and there's going to be things that don't work for another fraction of people, and we're just going to have to deal with it. I am back to appreciating the Star Wars that is. I find it interesting to talk about these alternate scripts and everything, but I'm really working with the story that's out there right now and trying to make all of these pieces of the puzzle fit together and work for me as a fan in my head canon and just in my day-to-day appreciation for the saga on a whole. And, more Star Wars, I think, is a good thing.
Yep.
And it's always going to be the Wild West as we plow forward. But I think where we're at right now, we can take a breather, sit back, relax. It's over. All right. The sequel trilogy is done. It's been a wild ride, but let's see what is left behind in its wake. And let's just have fun with it, because I think that's what we're all here to do, is have fun.
All right, that's going to wrap it up this week, Rebel Force Radio Live. Thank you very much to our callers. Sorry we didn't get to more of you, but don't worry, fear not. We're going to be doing more of these shows in the future, and there's a whole lot of time to chime in with your thoughts about not just the Rise of Skywalker, but the whole Star Wars saga. We've just begun in this incredible new era of Star Wars. Lots of ways you can hang with us and participate and engage. You can send us an email, show@rebelforceradio.com. That's the email address. You can also shoot us a voicemail, 708-320-1737. That's 708-3201-RFR. You can check us out. We're all on the social media platforms like Facebook at facebook.com/rebelforceradio. Twitter, we're at RFR Rebel Force. That's at RFR Rebel Force. And we're on Instagram at Rebel Force Radio. And don't forget about the official website for all things and everything, Rebel Force Radio, rebelforceradio.com. By the way, starting the new year here, we are a proud to be a part of the Evergreen Podcast Network, Podcasts for Life. The Evergreen Podcast Network. For more great podcasts like Rebel Force Radio, just go over to evergreenpodcasts.com and check them out. Highly curated and great quality, as you've come to expect from us here at Rebel Force Radio. That's evergreenpodcasts.com. Also, we are streaming. We're at WGNplus.com. We're on YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Anywhere you can find podcasts, you'll find us here at Rebel Force Radio. If you're a subscriber, either Apple Podcasts, iTunes, we'd love to have your review. So please, leave us a review. Just one rule.
Make them good. One more thing.
Yes.
While I have the podium.
Please.
A lot of people were wondering, hey, dude, you said you were going to be on the Me TV show Collector's Call last Sunday and you weren't on. Instead, some bozo radio DJ was on there showing off his Star Trek wares. What's up with that? Well, here's the deal.
Jimmy Mack was punked.
I was told that our episode would kick off season 2 of Collector's Call on Me TV because it's a Star Wars episode, and they wanted to release it while The Rise of Skywalker was still in movie theaters. But something obviously happened with the scheduling. I will definitely be on season 2 of Collector's Call on their Star Wars episode. It's amazing. You won't want to miss it. You Puppet Lando fans will definitely want to tune in, and that'll be happening. Me TV Collector's Call with Lisa Welcho, and that's going to be happening later this season when I find out a date for when the Star Wars episode is happening, which I appear on as a Star Wars expert. We'll let you know when it's going to happen. I can't wait for everyone to see it.
I got to say, I don't have a note about it, but we got to mention podcast. Patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio, and our wonderful family of Patreon supporters over there. It's man, oh man, is that community growing by leaps and bounds. And not only can you hear in full stereo Rebel Force Radio podcasts, usually a day or two before they're released to the general public, you can get them in beautiful stereo as a member of the Patreon tribe, as well as full video. You can see our mugs the whole time. So this whole show was videotaped, and it'll be available on Patreon. Oh, of course, this is
everyone's seeing it.
Everyone's seeing this one, Rebel. Well, I don't know. We've got some technical difficulties, but all episodes.
We record the show via video every week, even when we're not live on YouTube. And so members of Patreon All Access are available to get access to those videos. So
thank you.
Join today. It's a really, like Jason said, it's a community that's growing by leaps and bounds, and it's quality Star Wars fans hanging out, having a quality time. And they get the benefit of all kind of Rebel Force Radio exclusives, special offers, bonus programming, even opportunities to host shows. So, and all those exclusive shows can be found at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
Still to come, we're going to have a breakdown of the whole first season of The Mandalorian, so in retrospect, and of course a whole lot more Rebel Force Radio. So that's it for us this week. Thank you all so much. We love you. We'll see you next time for Rebel Force Radio. I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,